a great joy and pleasure to bring up the new folks or the next folks that's coming up. This is a group of people that are near and dear to my heart. This is where I learned organizing, being in the community. Those Wednesday conversations with Reverend Johnson every Wednesday shaped my outlook as an organizer, and really gave me that bit of push that a young person needed. There are so many lessons that I learned over there at Beloved the Beloved Community Center. It could be Beloved Community College, with all the lessons and the history that is taught through there, whether it's Mr. Brandon, whether it's Faith Community Church that's also associated there. The folks, the love that I've gotten from Mama Joyce, I really couldn't put into words. They've wrapped their arms around me, and really showed, the amount of love, and foresight and care, to folks from different, aspects of the community, which really molded us together to become that beloved community. I see they're setting up there. But yeah, so as we know, we're here to talk about the Time to Break Silence speech that Dr. King gave April 4th, 1967, from Riverside Church. Dr. King identified the three evils of society being extreme militarism, materialism, and racism. He said that these three things were inextricably linked, that you could not address one without addressing all three, that you can't find one without addressing all three, and that these particular policies of the United States abroad makes it impossible for us to care about the poverty and the suffering that's happening at home. We are reaping the benefits and rewards for war abroad, while maintaining and ignoring the suffering of folks that we walk past every day. So, are we ready, BCC? Okay, I can keep going. So just for folks that are interested in looking up a little bit more about Beloved Community College, or keep saying community college, you can tell I'm an educator at heart. And I'm just used to saying beloved because that's home. But if you're interested, Facebook, you can find them. Definitely go on the YouTube, look up the Truth and Reconciliation process that happened in Greensboro, that Beloved was a part of, specifically like the Johnsons. You can get involved with their Wednesday. I'm pretty sure they're still having their Wednesday roundtable conversations over at the Beloved Community Center. If you're ever in Greensboro, GSO, take some time, step by and talk to the good folks over there. I believe they're ready.
Yes, we are. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. There's the one and only Mr. Brandon, right there. It's good to see you, Mr. Brandon. I'm going to give you all the floor. Thank you so much for being with me.
You lost him.
All right. Good. All right. Good afternoon, and I bring you greetings from, again, Greensboro, North Carolina, and the Beloved Community Center, where I, Bridget Raspberry, am the current executive director. First of all, to thank Mon, organizers of Time to Break Silence, this special 24-hour streaming event commemorating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break Silence. Not only did this speech mark a critical nuance in the trajectory of Dr. King's work, but it is keenly relevant to today as we again need a radical revolution of values in this country. With the time that we have been given today, we would like to introduce you to our organization, its purpose and core values, while also drawing parallels between the period in which Dr. King's speech was given and the world today. Lastly, we will end hearing about and seeing a little bit of our current work. BCC, as we are affectionately known, is a community-based grassroots organization rooted in Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy of proactive struggles for racial and economic justice and true democracy in the pursuit of creating a beloved community. We approach our work through a focus on overcoming oppression through values-based, people-driven organizing and problem-solving. To unpack this a little more, I'd like to ask BCC's elder, one of BCC's elders and executive in residence, Mr. Louis A. Brandon III, how BCC got to this point. Mr. Brandon?
Yeah, thank you, Bridget, and hey, Devontae, it's good to see you, man. Yeah, BCC Genesis began 65 years ago with student activism in Greensboro, starting with the sit-ins in 1960, February 1. Students at A&T, the 4 students sat down and other students joined them. And I was a part of that joining. And so student activism during the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Power movement gave rise to community organizations that began to look at marginalized communities and to help people in those communities begin to advocate for themselves. And one such organization, which BCC is kind of modeled after, is called the Greensboro Association of Poor People, or GAP. That in 1967, 7 interns began to work various marginalized communities in Greensboro. And that organization during that summer period brought a coalition of these organizations together to form the Greensboro Association for People. And so people are organized around tenant rights, labor struggles, with blind workers, with the cafeteria workers, with garbage workers. There were rent strikes. All of these things trying to improve the condition of low-income people and marginalized people in the Greensboro community. So based upon that work, there were some of us who remained in Greensboro. And Nelson Johnson, people mention him as one of them. Nelson and I met in 1966 at A&T on a picket line, and it was around the struggle against the Vietnam War. A&T at that point had our mandatory ROTC program, and so there was demonstrations against the Vietnam War. So that's how we got started with the struggles with students from both A&T and Bennett, and some students from Guilford and was Women's College, now is UNC Greensboro. We began to form coalitions, and we built strong neighborhood organizations that began to struggle with the social injustices that occurred in the Greensboro community. So back to you, Bridget.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brandon. One of the things that I understand and that I learned when I came to BCC is that it is deeply rooted in a set of principles and core values, some of which Mr. Brandon already mentioned, in terms of our nature of working with marginalized communities and being rooted in grassroots advocacy, helping to unpack the power, believing in the worth, the value, and the enormous potential of all people, not just some, not just the elite few, but in all people. So we work intentionally in marginalized communities with people, providing opportunities, but platforms for their brilliance and for their creativity to be demonstrated and shown, but also for it to be collectively used for the uplift of their own community. Now, I will talk just a little bit about the context in which our work, we find ourselves in our work. So in making, wanted to draw some parallels to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's speech. Much like the period in which Dr. King made his historic speech, we find this nation riddled again with contradictions. On the one hand, we speak of democracy while rapidly reverting to the authoritarianism, militarism, and oppression that the colonists escaped when they first fled to the Americas centuries ago. We also find ourselves, again, choosing war and violence over peace. Perhaps that is because, as a nation, we refuse to deal with the truth of our racist, exploitive, and greed-filled past, not heeding the warnings of Dr. King when he urged us in his speech to shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. Both he and the late Reverend Nelson N. Johnson, our founding executive director, spoke of the fierce urgency of now, a fork in the road where we, the American people, have to make real choices, a period of great danger, yet also great opportunity. As Dr. King suggests, we are at a moment when our lives must be placed on the line if our nation is to survive its own folly. Every man of humane convictions must decide on the protest that suits his convictions. But make no mistake, we must all protest. Or, as Reverend Johnson would say, we must reject the false narratives of today and walk towards each other so as to one day walk together to establish the beloved community. Now, what I'd like to do is invite some of our other staff to come up so that we can hear from them about their work and the work of Beloved Community Center and how that work fuels them and continues the legacy of our founders. We'll hear first from August Hutchins, one of our volunteers and future interns. August, what is it like being a student today? And why is it that you're interested in interning at Beloved Community Center?
Yeah, so thanks for having me today. I'm August Hutchins. I'm currently a junior at Guilford College. And being a student today has been enlightening, but it's currently been tough. It's hard seeing the news and the current changes in governmental policy that I know will affect my friends and family. I have friends who are international students, friends, some who are undocumented, and other friends who have lost their summer internships at the National Institute of Health. And being in the generation today centered around social media, I sense and see the world is divided. For example, I see people sharing posts of how they're blocking others based off the results of the election. So I feel like empathy is really needed today, and I'm grateful for being a student at Guilford College because of my privilege being surrounded by diverse people, different upbringings, different perspectives, and these are necessary to get a broader worldview. I recently took a restorative justice and transformation class with my professor, Sherry Giles, who is a board member of Beloved Community Center, and she connected our class to the Truth and Reconciliation Summit. So I've been able to learn more about BCC's values and mission. So I'm a student volunteer with them and hope to get an internship where I'm able to learn more about community organizing, connection, and how to bring people together regardless of their background. So I hope to bring some more of my friends to this center and rekindle BCC's relationship with Guilford College, with the Bonner Leader community and the Principal Problem Solving Scholars community that I'm a part of. So, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, August. We're going to switch out real quick and bring some more team members in here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Fidel Benton, Communications Officer here at Beloved Community Center, and I'm just here to talk about the work that I do here and why. As a Communications Officer, working a number of things, but some of the important things is really to craft these messages that we bring out, that we share with individuals. That can be like a one sheet, that can be an email, that can be a flyer. It's a number of things, especially with grassroots organizing. It can take a lot of different shapes. You can be on a lot of different teams supporting them. Like I said, usually work on flyers, manage the website, help with different content on social media, even from a direct programmatic approach. Different programs, different campaigns and initiatives have different things that come with it. I think about the long march that we did last year, where we talk about what our shirts look like, even our banners and our signs. Those are things that I help be a part, support, facilitate in some areas, even like production-wise, making sure the sound is right, making sure we are clear on the video. And that's some of my work that I've always done in any field I am, but it's really important here, Beloved, because it's not just, writing a message or a flyer. It's really impacting communities. I believe that communication can build bridges. Sometimes you just need text needs to be a little bit bigger. You need to see yourselves in the imagery. And being here at Beloved, that takes that to another degree when we talk about impacted communities, when you talk about trying to help people see with various concepts. Even when you hear us today, you might hear some terms that you're familiar with or some terms you're not familiar with. Those are some things that I work candidly with the team about how to craft these things and how to bring it to individuals. And another big thing I do as communications is try to stay in contact and build relationships with various partners, whether that's the media, whether that's either coalition partners. One of my main things, especially when we come to an event, is like I'm trying to get butts in seats, but also who are those butts in those seats? Like who are we talking to? Who do we want to be? Who we want representative? Because we want to be really representative of the people, because that's who we're here for. One of the favorite things I really like here at BCC that I'm able to do is host our Wednesday community table. Every Wednesday, we have a virtual Wednesday community roundtable where people can share different information, whether it's personal stories, personal challenges. We've really been talking about shining a light on injustice, and the community table has been doing that for years now. It started off as a local group, got together here in Greensboro, and it expanded. We navigated through COVID, and now we're mostly virtual, but we're able to speak to people all around the world, people all around the nation, people right across the street, down the street. We're able to come together and share news, share information. One thing I really like, and one of our tactics and strategy, or maybe more deeper than a principle, is deep listening. We're able to listen to individuals. We're able to be focused and just take in what people hear. And that's one thing I really love at BCC, and that's why I do this, is really to impact people. Like I said, communications can build bridges. And when you're talking about our work, we're talking about trying to improve the working conditions and living conditions of individuals. And so whether that we need to translate into a different language, maybe we need to beef up our language, maybe we need to simplify it. Those are some of the things that I help out with. And I'm just really happy with the work I do here at BCC, because it's not only just, making pretty stuff, but it's also impacting communities so people have a better understanding. So Ashley, how are you?
I'm good.
That's good. Tell us about your work and why.
Yeah, so my name is Ashley. I am an intern here at Beloved Community Center, and I chose to intern here after taking a board member Sherry Giles class like August did. And I really loved Beloved because I believe in the power of community, healing, and justice. And too often, injustices are overlooked, especially in marginalized communities. But here at Beloved, they confront and they acknowledge these injustices and work to fight for the voiceless. And I want to be a part of that change, and I want to challenge the structures that create harm and contribute to a future where everyone has the opportunity to live in peace. And some of the things that I've been working on here as an intern is an extension of what I've been learning at Guilford College. I am working on a project, Trauma Within the Community, that examines how systemic justices create and sustain trauma within communities. And it's important to know that trauma is not just a personal experience, it's also within the entire community. And that trauma can be passed down to other generations if it's left unaddressed. This project also allows for the space and techniques to heal. Some of the specific techniques that I have learned that have shown to be really effective when having difficult conversations or memories or just any triggers that kind of get you flustered are grounding techniques that include breathing techniques. Breathe in for 4, hold for 3, breathe out for 7, for example, that's one. But giving people these techniques who are impacted by trauma, it gives them the opportunity to be seen and heard and supported in various different situations and meetings in life.
Thanks, Ashley. That was awesome, by the way. You know, she was kind of nervous for it. That was great. That was perfect. Y'all can give claps in the chat. Hey, Brenda.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brenda Addison. I'm the administrative officer here at the Beloved Community Center. I've been with the organization for about a year now. And coming into the organization, we were knee-deep, probably neck-deep into a wonderful project last year, a statewide project. So it was, hit the ground running. But the spirit of BCC will grab you very quickly. And so knowing the vision of the co-executive directors at the time, you just, got behind them and just followed their lead. So my role as administrative officer here, office manager, is to hold down the team somewhat in an administrative aspect, but also understanding the gravitas of the mission and knowing the passion behind the organization. So it's easy to get behind that when the leaders lay out the vision with a sense of passion, and then you come to understand the history of it, as Mr. Brandon laid out before. And it's still slowly evolving and unraveling some of that. So every day, sometimes you may pick up on a small nugget, and it just gives you that more encouragement to keep on with the mission. So I'm glad to be here. As people have said already, the programs that we're involved with, maybe, you can tap in and get a part of that. But here at Beloved, I just like the passion and the vision and understanding the goal and the mission of the organization, and to reach those in the community, not just in Greensboro, but the city, the state. The leaders had a vision to reach those nationally and internationally. So work is still being done, and we are here for the community and beyond.
That was great. We're going to bring some next team members to close us out.
Peace, everyone. I'm Trell, and I'm a community organizer from North Carolina. It's my great privilege to be able to be a part of the Beloved Community Center staff as a regional organizer. Do you all want to introduce? Okay, I'll go. So yeah, on the staff, what I do is regional organize the western half of the state. And to get more into my introduction, I'm from Fayetteville, and I found my way to Greensboro by way of North Carolina A&T State University. And like many other students that come through there, I got connected with Reverend Wesley Morris, who's the current pastor of Faith Community Church. And he began telling me about this deep history that exists here in Greensboro, connected to the Black Power movement, connected to the Civil Rights movement, and all of these intertwining legacies. And I'm sitting here next to Mama Joyce Johnson, who is deeply embedded in those legacies as well. And it's been really an honor to come and take place in the lineage and continue to work. What I do is essentially kind of move forward on our strategic partnerships, keep our programs moving forward, like our racial healing initiatives and our Black and Brown women's voting initiative, and also work really hard when I'm out into the community to affirm the inherent value, worth, and dignity of all the people I come in contact with. I really believe what it means to be a community organizer is that when you come in contact with somebody else, you alter the way they engage with their community. You alter the way they engage socially. By way of coming in contact with you as a community organizer, people should be more awake to the world around them. They should be able to see differently, see past the fronts people put on, and see kind of their pain, their experiences. They should listen differently, spark conversations with cashiers who you would normally not speak to in the grocery store, those people who you run into at the gym or just walking around downtown. And that has really been my experience. I was a rush around the edges community organizer when I came, but when I got here, I was given new eyes to see and new ears to listen. And that's really been the heart of my experience at the Beloved Community Center that I'll carry with me throughout my life.
Okay, I'm Ricky, one of the regional organizers here at Beloved Community Center. I organize the eastern state of North Carolina. It has really been a joy, nonetheless, to be able to really help people vocalize the power that's inside of them. You know, it's not that a lot of people don't know they have the power. A lot of people don't know how to use it. And being able to go into places and help people exercise that right that God gave them, exercise that voice, has really been a joy. One of the other things that we've been doing, me and Trail, we've been building coalition within our partners. We have great partners in the state of North Carolina that does some really good work. And being able to bring people into shared places and tables to work together and walk together has been a huge joy as well. Reverend Johnson used this analogy that I absolutely love. I think when I first met him, this is one of the things that he said at the SVA conference. He said, I was driving along in my car, and it started to rain. And the rain came down and hit my windshield, but it didn't stop there. The rain washed off my windshield and went off into the streets, but it didn't stop there. It went into a stream, but in that stream, it didn't stop. That stream then found a creek, and in that creek, it didn't stop. That creek found the river, and where that river had the power to forge the terrain and forge its way through the most rugged landscapes. And that's what we believe, and that's what we know, that when we come together, not to stop our work, we all have different things that we're working on, different orgs are working on things, but if we come together under the umbrella of justice and form that river of justice, each streamlet, whether it's education, whether it's environmental justice, whether it's poverty, whether it's racism, when we come together and we form that river, nothing can stop us. But the only way we can do it is by being unified and being together and walking together and seeing each other and hearing each other. And we love you.
Amen.
We would like to show you this video real quick. And we're coming right back, so don't leave us. Can I do this?
We are divided on so many. Levels. House is on fire. We are divided on so many levels. And we have prophets and falsehood and negativism spewing out information designed to pit people against each other every day and all day. And it doesn't take an Einstein to figure out where that goes. That it becomes more and more bitter. So I'm glad that we are embarking on what I would call a great mission. Great missions don't start great. Not with one or two people. But we want to actually become a voice for the necessity of building an enduring movement that can't be easily broken up. And that means that we have to be patient with each other. We have to be truthful with each other. And we have to work together. It took a little while to get everybody in this room. But we waited until everybody got here. Because we want to be one sound, one voice, one energy, one source that is determined not to be divided, not to turn on each other, not to create unnecessary confusion. But everywhere we go, we want to be prophets of unity that call people together. Not so much by what we say, sometimes that actually causes people not to get together, but by how we act. Greet everybody, make them feel welcome, and give them a sense that this is not just a march, that we're in the process of building a movement. And that's to say, we want to link up with all the others who are building movements. There is the Poor People's Campaign. There is the wine group. What's the name of it?
Red, Wine, Blue.
Yeah. Name some other groups.
Blueprint.
And think of all of those getting more and more aligned.
Yes.
And to a point that you can't break them up. And if somebody's saying something ugly and unauthorized, don't be spreading that around. If it's necessary, talk to the person and work it out. Because we want to model for this nation what it means to build unity in a state. We already linked up with the Poor People's Campaign, with Blueprint, with a number of other groups. So I want to commend you for coming, taking the time off, making the sacrifice. And when I started, I said that our house is on fire. And if your house, you don't sit outside under a tree waiting for it to go out. If you can't build, if you don't have a fire department, create a bucket brigade and begin. Everybody can do something. And the main thing we want to do is to build the unity all across this state of the beautiful diversity of the human race, so that we cannot be played and pitted against each other. That's the spirit. And if you carry that spirit, you'll link up with some people who have a kindred spirit. That's right. And as we do that, city by city, and hopefully state by state, we will be joining with others who are already doing it. So we're not claiming that we are the first to get out here on that. We want to unite with people who are already doing that, so that we can bend the moral arc away from falseness and away from lies, and away from thinking that your neighbor is your enemy, but toward affirming the dignity and the worth and the enormous unrealized potential of the beautiful human family, even though we're not always acting beautiful toward each other. So I want to just say thank you for being here, and I want to
heard yesterday someone say, I'm ready to stop talking and I'm ready to build strategy. And that's what we're going to try to do today. We're going to move towards strategy. We might not get it finished today, but trust me, we're coming back. In fact, we're coming back to each of the communities for the Long March. We will start this side of the new year, probably end on the other side. But we're going to do that because we want to have conversations with you and others in your community face to face, knee to knee, because that's how some of this strategy has got to be developed. So think about that, prepare for that, think about start thinking now, who should be in the room when we come to your community, because that's what this is about. Reverend Johnson had a vision about the Long March. All of that falls into our work of truth, justice, and reconciliation, but his vision didn't stop at a march. One of the things that he said to us shortly after the march, he was in the office, in the conference room with us, and saying, but we've got to do something else. We've got to take what we've learned, the momentum that has been built, and we've got to do a work together so that people know that what we're talking about is possible, is actually and can be accomplished. So that's what this is about. That's what this day is about. It's about moving us towards the thing that we're going to do together. And once we create the model, it can be replicated on all of the issues that we heard. It can be replicated on issues that are yet unaddressed, we don't yet know about. So think about that and buckle up, because...
All right, so we're back now. I hope you've had an opportunity to get a sense of BCC and its work. You've already heard about its tremendous legacy and its founders, but I'm here to introduce another one of our treasures, another one of our elders, former co-executive director, now a executive in residence. Some call her Mama J, some call her Miss J. I call her Joyce Friend, but I would like to introduce to you, those of you who may not know her, Mrs. Joyce Hobson Johnson of Beloved Community Center. Joyce.
Thank you, friends, and good afternoon to everybody. April 4th, 1968. How well I remember that date. I was a senior in college, had the privilege, the opportunity to personally interact with Dr. King twice. I first met him in November of 1964 during my freshman year in college, and was heavily impacted. We'll get back to that in a minute. But I just want us to think, and you probably have been prompted to do this many times today. It's almost 60 years now since April 4th, 1968. And those negative forces that were unleashed at that time in our country thought they were going to take down an idea, a belief, a commitment in beloved community. But here we are, almost 60 years later on April 4th, certainly missing the presence of someone like Dr. King, and he would have been, well into his 90s by now. But we have some wonderful people around us who are well into their 90s and still committed to beloved community. Hopefully some of you who are members of the National Council of Elders and other groups, along with Lewis Brandon, my colleague here, still doing what you are called to do. But just think about it. Despite all of what we felt on that day, on April 4th, 1968, here we are. And I want you to hold on to that, because we have those same forces of evil, separation, oppression, disrespect, really death. When you think about what's happening to some of our brothers and sisters, our siblings, in all of their variety, who are starving, who are somewhere in an immigrant camp, though they were born, raised in this country, these United States that were taken over from our native brothers and sisters. All of them still deserve the beloved community and dream of it, even if they don't know those words. So the point is, there are some difficult times ahead of us, and you might be thinking about King would say. He said there are some difficult times. I'm not quoting him exactly. I'll leave that to Trell and Ricky and August and folks, Ashley. But we can still build beloved community. So that's the main thing I want to share with you, is that hope is still there. Jesse Jackson said, keep hope alive. Jesse was a young man around Dr. King. He was on that balcony as well, I think, when King was killed. Louis Brandon knew them. My husband was supposed to meet Dr. King on the very day that he was gunned down. As I said, I had a couple of times where I interacted with him personally. But I'm speaking primarily right now to those who are probably in my grandchildren's category in terms of my age. I'm 78 right now, by the way, hoping I'll make it 79 in December. But don't despair. The biggest tool being used against we the people, us, all of us, everybody. The biggest tool being used now is to divide us and to discourage us. Do not get discouraged. But as Ricky and her Trail and others said, learn to walk together. Whether you're in a formal coalition in an organization, you're in a neighborhood, you're in a church, you're in a sorority, you're in a school, wherever you are, there's someone that you can join hands with, virtually or physically for real, and figure out how to solve the problems we have in this country. And one of the biggest problems, as I said, in my opinion, is the disbelief in the power of the people. But I've seen it. I've seen it, having grown up in segregated Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the Confederacy. Having grown up there, gone off to school as a 17-year-old from parents who hadn't even finished high school, and been able to then become a part of this great movement of the 60s and continue up until today as the beautiful name that our board and Bridget and others have given to Lewis and myself as executives in residence, which means that we ain't no ways tired, though we're worn out in many ways and using canes sometimes and can't do this and do that. Our spirits are strong and our belief is strong, and we want to share that with you, because we're depending on all of us holding hands together and making it happen. Another friend from the Council of Elders, Suzanne Farr, sent out a document the other day that talked about the importance of intergenerationalism. In other words, everybody working together. And we, again, try to do that at Beloved Community. I believe our youngest intern is about 16. My grandson was supposed to come and join me today, but that didn't work out. But he already knows the story. He already has the commitment, the drive to build Beloved Community. So believe that we can do it. And let me just then quickly move to just sharing what I learned from Dr. King and Mrs. Coretta Scott King, because it has resided in me up until this day, and it helps sustain me. So I feel that part of what we as elders do is tell you some of these stories to encourage you that you too can, even more than just overcome. Overcome is very important now, but more than just overcoming, you can build up, as Vincent Harding said, a new world. We can build up a new world that we imagine collectively, where we all are respected, all are honored, and all the enormous possibilities among God's diverse, very diverse people are materialized. We didn't make ourselves. Some of us may think so, but we didn't make ourselves. So the fact that we're so varied is a good thing. It is a gift. Yet we've turned that gift upside down and made, I heard Bridget speaking last night, so our legislative caucus from our state, the great state of North Carolina, that we've got to really embrace diversity, equity, inclusion. That's had many names over the years, but basically treating everybody like a human being, respecting everybody, loving everybody. It doesn't mean you like everybody, but you love and respect and honor them. So the first thing I want to say is that when I met Dr. King, I was a freshman at Duke University. That was 64, so that means you know there were very few African Americans on that particular campus. Despite what you see on the basketball court and other places these days, there were very few African Americans there. I had dinner with Dr. King as a result of some others of my classmates' parents. Harry Boyd in particular, his dad was one of the white members of SCLC. And they arranged dinner for a few of us. And we just talked. I can't quote to you exactly what Dr. King said, but he did like I try to do with those here who call me Mama Joyce. And those of you out there, I see some of the names on the screen that I recognize very well. Basically, he asked me, what do you plan to do? And if you don't have a personal plan, it'll be difficult to join with a collective plan. So it's not just about having membership in an organization, paying your dues even, and doing a few hours in the community, but it's about building that inner thing that first recognizes how important you are to this whole world, and then recognize that you are very little unless you're connected to others. And you can do even more if you strive to make the world better for yourself, your family, your community. And I had to just grapple with those questions. It wasn't just about integrating, this PWI, as you call them now, but it really was about doing something for my people. And the longer I went, the more I recognized my people are all people. And his asked me that question and just how was I going about it? What were the problems I was running into? What am I reading to get more clear? With whom am I speaking? All of that. The first thing it did was help me really embrace the struggle of workers, non-academic workers, who were the only people of color on that campus who were working. And they were the non-academic employees, the maids, the janitors, the cooks, all of these folks. That's who they were, but that's who my parents were. And they supported me. They moved me forward. But I knew that as a student, it was about my degree, yes, showing that I could do it in 4 years, because people didn't think that black people could go to Duke University and graduate in 4 years. But I took up union organizing while a student, and it made a difference. And that propelled me in the subsequent years. I never gave that up. That's part of what brought my husband, Reverend Nelson Johnson, me together, that we both found we were committed to these struggles. So first do that inner inspection and then commit to yourself and however you see the divine being. You may not see a divine being, but however you understand that power that's greater than you. Look at the Lion King or something if you're not clear on these questions. You don't have to always go to church to get clear on these bigger questions. But then beyond that, what's your commitment to others around you? That will help stabilize you as all these things come back and forth. Rules and regulations come up from the government, from a job, from the school. You will be anchored in some moral, ethical principles that propel you. Link up with groups like the Beloved Community Center. We're not the only organization out there, but others too who are working hard to make the world better. The other thing I learned from Dr. King, and I do want to have some space for questions from all of us, I met him the second time or interacted with him when they were planning the first Poor People's Campaign. And that would have been about November of 1967. And he'd just gotten out of jail, was in Atlanta. And what I saw there was him and his wife and his children. And a very, very, very small crowd of people. So the big days that you see on TV are not always there. Sometimes just a small group. But what I saw was Dr. King committed to these large ideals, but at the same time caring for and nurturing his family. And that's something that Reverend Johnson and I have grappled with for over 55 years, with the grace of that and the struggle of that. But Many of you have come to me privately and asked me, how did y'all do that? How did y'all stay married for so long? So the first thing I do is say it was the Lord's work, because we didn't even have to know what we were doing, because we got married after meeting each other for three months. So I might have thought I knew, but I now realize it was a higher power holding us together. I think because of the commitment that we each had to this larger question, we were better together than apart. And just blessed with them having 2 daughters and now 2 grandchildren who will continue to carry on the work in our own respective ways. But that's another question people have to address is how do I look out for what I want to do in my career. I'm an artist. I want to make this fantastic music and have it all over the world. If that is linked to the larger question of building beloved community, building a better circumstance, not that you won't have hardships, and you may not make a whole lot of money. That's certainly been our situation, but we've never had a day without food. Well, I take that back. Reverend Jay went on a 20-day hunger strike one time to really deal with some of the social justice problems here. So that was a self-selection. But just think of those 2 things and look to people. Find you a mentor if you don't have one. Call Lewis and me here, Beloved Community. Arrange something through Brenda to have a tour or a training or whatever for yourself individually or for your group, because that is what we are here for at this point. We're blessed to be here. One of the last conversations I had with Reverend Jay a few months ago before he passed on was we knew that he was moving on, and that was difficult. But I kept reminding him, and he agreed. The blessing that we've had of seeing so many beautiful outgrowths of the little work that we did, and to be able to see it before we moved on was a blessing. So we are confident because we're seeing it right now, that road is rough and the going gets tough. The hills are hard to climb. But if you start out really prepared to build beloved community, you may not see it. And you've heard King and other people say that you may not physically see it, but you can see the elements of it emerging from the people. You saw it around this table today with others at Beloved Community, those of you out there in North Carolina and around the country doing the work. So hold on to that hope, but make your personal commitment. Find you a group, a community to be a part of, commit to that, and be confident that that arc for justice, for truth, is long, but it does all bend toward justice. That's what fuels us here at Beloved Community Center. We invite you to join with us in whatever way you can. Some of you can't do the marching and what have you right now, but you can march in your heart and you can touch another person. You can contribute financially or intellectually or however. Pray, do all kinds of things to help build this beloved community the world over. And we'll all be blessed for it. So, Bridget, I'm going to stop. I have no idea how the time's going, but if there's time for some questions or however we can interact with those online, I'm prepared to participate, and I'm sure that Lewis and others are as well.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Joyce. That was wonderful, wonderful segue into questions, if there are questions. But one of the things that I just want to reiterate, that Dr. King talked about why he was there, why he was given the speech, and that the organizers of that event that he was at, that they had put together kind of a reason or a purpose for the meeting. And they said that there comes a time when silence is betrayal. And this is such a time as that. There is so much suffering that what we deal with, as Dr. King reminded us, is not really what is said, what is verbalized, that it really is an attack on the moral fiber of our country. that really those who have values, regardless of if your values are faith-based or if your values are in family and belief, that if you are a person of value, you cannot stand still and not speak when others are suffering. And if we were to get in touch with those things that are dear and near to us, our values, then it would propel us to act in this moment. And that's what his speech was about reminding us, one, that we're not yet the America that we hope to be, but in fact, we are a nation seeking to become, and we only become that if we were to remember our values and to be motivated by our values and not by money, not by military might and strength or ego, but it is our values that will guide us to the America that was promised. DeMonte?
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I think my AirPods might have died on me. First of all, let me say, Mama J, it is such an honor to see you and hear you and hear the wisdom and the lessons that you've brought to us today. I'm over here happy, cried tears of joy, saw you and Mr. Brandon and Bridget and the folks there at Beloved Community. You all are super close to my heart. That's the place I call second home. I'm from Eastern North Carolina through and through. But Greensboro and specifically the Beloved Community Center is home for me. So I do have just a couple of questions just for the folks watching at home, and they can hear your wisdom. How does, the effects of militarism abroad impact the domestic policies and specifically poverty in America?
Mm-hmm. I'll start off with DeMonte, and I don't know whether Mr. Brandon wants to come back and join at this table here or not. But it impacts us through and through, all around. One thing that comes to my mind the most is that, I said that I grew to understand that all people really are part of, my family. My immediate family is very dear to me. But human beings, and of course the earth that sustains us, the natural animals, all that make a difference. North Carolina is suffering from bees dying. That's impacting the food chain. So that's part of it. The fact that militarism means that people are being killed, no matter who is declared as a winner. Ultimately, we're not winning. But concretely, in our communities of color, and I know you probably have some people those are our brothers and sisters going to those wars, often because they can't sustain themselves economically here in this country. So my brother went to the Navy when he finished high school, ended up then later on going to college and all that. Thank God did not get killed. But I know people who died during the Vietnam War, and then the wars have continued. So that's the other thing. And then the fact that the military budget is such a huge percentage, I think probably the largest part of our budget, that impacts people like me who are on Social Security. It impacts kids whose families feed them through the social network that people fought for that, by the way, not just Congress people, but it was folk in the street who made sure we had safety net for folks who are poor. So I'll just stop there and let Lewis and Bridget chime in, but just the taking and this regard for life, which this country was founded on, that was the way Native American brothers and sisters were slaughtered and what have you. But people the world over, And then the fact that folk objectively, they volunteer, yes, for the military, but really their circumstances help volunteer them for the military because they didn't have a way of making a way economically. So they join the military, and then those of us who need resources for education and social services don't get what we need because the money is going into war. So either one of you wants to join in.
Yeah, I want to go back to the title of his speech because the key word there is beyond Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So he really was not, even though people want to talk about the war and the militarism, King was talking about something beyond Vietnam. And for us, or for me, it was the part about materialism and racism and how it impacts us and impact the communities in which we live in, and how it divides and conquers us and keep us from dealing with the social issues and the social injustices that take place in the community. Yeah. So while wars are a problem and people are constantly engaging in those kinds of activities, I think he said beyond Vietnam.
Right.
And so my focus has been on the economic injustices and the racism that exists and the policies and programs that are put in place that devalue human beings.
Okay. And I would just add, I think Reverend or Dr. King in his speech talked about, as Ms. Johnson said, diverting of resources from social justice programs and helping people here. But I would also, I also picked out of his speech that he really talked about the contradiction of us talking about democracy. One of the things as a nonprofit executive director that we often hear in talking to funders, they say they can tell you what your work is based on your budget, where you put your resources. And as a country, if we put the majority of our resources towards war and towards violence, and the violent overthrow and overtaking of other countries, then there is a consequence to that. And so when we look in streets as people are settling their differences, turning against each other, that's a product, that's a result of our policies as it relates to militarism. So if we want to speak of democracy and speak of peace and a better way, we have to, as a country, as a nation, we have to put our resources where our mouths are, where our mouth is. So we can't just talk about these things. We have to demonstrate and show them in how we prioritize how we spend our money.
Thanks, DeMonte.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I think I don't know if there's any questions in the chat. Does anybody in the chat have any questions? I'm not seeing any questions. Yeah, but thank you so much for joining me and coming on with us and really gracing us with this history and lesson for me, for younger organizers, for folks around the state of North Carolina that need to hear this message while they're feeling this bit of despair. Thank you all for being that light at the end of the tunnel, that hope. I always think about Reverend Johnson's words of walk together, children, and don't get weary. There's a great camp meeting on the other side. So we understand that there's the other side that we got to get there, but we all have to be walking together to get to the other side. So thank you so much again for everything that you've done for me and for what you've done for young organizers throughout the state of North Carolina. And the seeds that you all have been planting over the years are are definitely going to keep budding and continue to keep reproducing. Future fingers won't fail the torch.
Yes.
Thank
you.
man.
Take care.
Take care.
So this is really special. This is a special day to me. Joined by all the folks that I loved on stream. The next person that I'd like to bring up is a person that